the lighthouse, built in 1874. That lighthouse was used to navigate ships coming in from San Francisco to San Simeon Port. I highly suggest checking out San Simeon Beach, where you can see a warehouse designed by Julia Morgan. There's a winery, a schoolhouse, Sebastian's, where you can get your tri-tip. But just think of the see, does it look like a church? Yep. That was, we call it the 15th century. To the left, you see a saint holding the key to heaven. That's a relief. On the right, Saint Peter, Saint Paul, who holds the sword of martyrdom. Where is Mother Mary? Did you locate her? In a niche. Get a good look at the choir stalls, gargoyles, carved wood, bronze statues, pianos. Please just look down straight at your feet. Thank you.
And make sure you're on the carpet.
But if you look very carefully, tell me, are those the same as the ones on this side? All right, we are halfway in. 27. Did you get a good look? Up at your ceiling. It's an Italian walnut, 7-foot-long panel ceiling. But some of them are antique, said to be from the 17th century. It is very difficult to distinguish the ones that were made on site. The skilled craftsmen, past plaster workers, and master wood carvers are here. The extensions in between these panels, there's 21 total panels. It looks like wood, but it's cast plaster. Dolphin arm bars here. Notice some of them are actually carved that look like they're only 100 years old, and the others are missing lots of pieces of wood. Imagine you come. There are little painted scenes here. So much artwork and detail. And again, a tapestry. They came here to check it out. This was completed in 1927. Okay. Notice the fire stalls around you. They would have been used by Spanish monks in the 1500s. So the seats, if you notice behind you or in front of you, these seats, St. George. St. Francis de Assisi is on this side. And these are Italian from the 17th century. Virgin Mary is here after 1 a.m., but you can get a glass of German draft beer there. You can get some beer and cheese and make your way to the billiards room. We're going to go to the game room. It's going to get a little tight, but you'll still see some of the artwork, Persian tiles, and pool tables. Does anybody have a question on something like this? This is some jazz. We'll play some pool. You know how to rack this up, right? Well, what about that game? Yeah, what's it called? French carom billiards. I hear the French call it billiards. This one's, we know this one, 6-pocket pool. Now imagine men and women are here playing pool together in the 30s. Many cultures all around the world. Wisdom, power, and knowledge. And there is your one taxidermy owl looking back at guests that come through, keeping an eye on his treasure. There's 50 chairs in front of you. 50 chairs are the vintage with the blankets. There would be lap dogs needed if you wanted. William Randolph Hearst is in his riding outfit there. Joe Kerr's riding pants. Receiving an award is Marie Dresser, a silent film star actress. This is a spoof filmed in 1931 or so. Marion Davies is a silent comedian star. Mr. Hearst's girlfriend coming in hot with an argyle sweater. She's got this face. She does improv. She would have 40 films. By 1929, she's scared to death that she's not going to make it in the talkies. because she has a Brooklyn stutter. Blonde bombshell. Hanging out with Charlie Chaplin. First superstar. Hanging out with other silent film stars. This is a politician on the right, Jimmy Walker, from 1926 to 1932, New York City. On the left, Paul Block, media publisher. The lady on the left is a gossip columnist for LA Times known as Hedda Hopper. She would write, "A visit to the Hearst ranch is like a ticket to Never Neverland. Never have you seen such a place and never will you see its likes again." Oh my gosh, it's Suave, or is it Zorro? John Gilbert. This on the right is Dolores Del Rio and Claire Windsor. Charlie Chaplin's playing some tennis in the back of the castle. We'll visit those courts. He's working on his left-handed swing against, perhaps, tennis champion Bill Tilden, first American to win it. He's hanging out here with WR. Can you believe it or not, WR is playing tennis in his 70s. Oh my goodness, it's Buddy Rogers and Claire Windsor going on a horseback ride. Not only was Buddy here, Roy as well as Will Rogers.
We will also pass the animal enclosures used in Mr. Hearst's time for the polar bears. They were given ice on warm days and used their pool to swim in.
Winston Churchill's up on that patio. He's got his easels and paints. Spends a week here, spends most of his time painting. Wow. Imagine that. You see the bell tower? Concrete windows below that. That's the 4th floor. That's where we'll be heading at the top of the tour. So that's where we're headed. You all ready? Yes. Quick stop before we go in the house. I heard somebody ask, is this a coffin? Hearst has 9 sarcophagus. 1st to 3rd century, more or less caskets. And this one has been time dated, the inside, correct, 1st to 3rd century, but they believe the art was done later. The Romans did cover up the private parts of the body.
Does this part of elevators work?
The elevator does work, but it's for emergencies only. Has a formula. This would be the man's room. There'd be a sitting room, and then the woman's room. The elite of that day, husband and wife, didn't necessarily sleep together. Oh, so they'll run through.
Is she really there?
And they hit the rooms, all the rooms. They come in at 6 in the morning, hit them all before tours, and then they hit a room every day during tour time. They try not to be seen, so we caught them in action. Now, I think that Hearst would have used him as his architect, but White is murdered in 1906. He's shot by the renovation. So the bathroom you see is as it was when the state acquired this in 58, so it's about 100 years old. You see the other half of that 18th century Italian ceiling here. Again, a 16th century Spanish altarpiece with the red velvet. You can see that our living history department puts clothes out of the age. These aren't clothes actually that would have been free when the electrician snuck a look at the bill February 1924. Mere $1,350, if you can imagine, back in 1924. So those of you that just came off the Grand Rooms tour, we are above the assembly room. So if you could see out the window, we'd be looking over the main terrace. And so sometimes if it was chilly down languages, Hearst himself asked for these bookcases to be built and puts the grates on them. Miss Miller said he has a near photographic memory, but sometimes he wants to check a quotation. Remember, he's a newspaper man, And he knows where the books are. He wants to be able to come find his book, open to the page. Does this look like home?
Yes.
I thought so. Moorish, that's a combination of the Islamic and Spanish Christian ceiling. He has a Gothic style. If you're familiar with that, you've got the 15th century French bed. He was 6'3", so it's fairly long. You can see each of those bedposts is carved differently, which is a sign of that Gothic period. Now, if you look over here, you see a picture of his father. Unlike most of us, Hearst got a big head start in life. His father, George.
Normal standards, because like the length of all the other beds are super short.
They're short because he's 6'2", 6'3". He has the longest bed.
There's not 2 beds?
No, this is just for the woman in his life. Remember, the suite is 1 bedroom for the man, 1 bedroom for the woman. Girl on one arm and 18-year-old girl on the other. And his friends are saying, not a good look if you want to be president. So 4 years later, he marries one of those girls, a 16-year-old, Millicent Veronica Wilson, becomes his wife, and they have 5 boys. She is up here with him on the hilltop till 1925. Who puts a female in charge of the major city in Chicago, and then he buys a newspaper in London, puts a female in charge of his newspaper in London. So as much as he's on one side, he's not really very good with women. He does understand their ability. His mom was the first female regent at UC Berkeley, and he does see well before his time the value promotes women voting. And they say that may be one of the reasons he didn't do more politically, because that was not popular in 1912 to think about women voting. So once they build the Gothic floor, Mr. Hearst raises the bell towers, and these are the celestial suites, 1 on each side of us. Remember, he's got a formula. So if you've got 2 bedrooms, what do you need in the middle? Sitting room. So Julie Morgan has to deal with, it's kind of a gem in and of itself. So you can again see what Hearst was looking at. Now this isn't an antique ceiling. His craftsman fashioned this out of concrete. And now we're going to head into the room that had a hopper. She was a gossip column, and that's a really good friend of Marion Davies.
I'm very confused as
So we get every other room. That they probably put the carpet in to quiet things so that there wasn't as much noise above them. If you've ever lived in an apartment, you know what the folks above you are doing. Had a hopper, was probably the closest friend to Marion Davies. She didn't work with Hearst. In fact, she fought tooth and nail. Put windows on this side like on the other side, but he resisted that. Are you the last one? Down. Those of you that were on the Grand Rooms tour, does this give you a different dimension, a look of what the hilltop looks like? What do you think? It's a great combination. If you just swing the door closed for me. Hearst has those 5 boys. The youngest, David and Randolph, are twins. So some of you are standing by the 16th century Spanish antique bed, and then the craftsmen make one as close as they can, as identical, because you know if you have kids, it has to be fair. So this first door is the converted. Yeah. So what he has is essentially a vacant shaft at each end of the wing, and so this is what we have. Is Miss Morgan turns this into the sitting room with the bathroom at the lower level, and then the loft bedroom. And it said that these were the most requested rooms. And Mr. Hearst invited you. People wanted to stay. Did they talk about the copies of those in the Louvre?
No.
Oh, let me tell you the story.
Well, I don't remember.
If you haven't done the Grand Rooms tour, when you go in, there's 4 tapestries. There's Scipio's tapestries, a set of 10.